How's it going? And welcome back to Chasing Victory with Ben Ballion and Jason Lee. I'm Ben Ballion and that's Jason Lee. And today we have a Week 15 recap for you. Jason, how's it going?
It's going well, man. Week 15 is coming on. Some great games that happen. And we are exactly 7 days till Christmas. Look at that. It's going to be a great week.
Happy holidays, everyone. Early Merry Christmas to you. Let's start with what could be a Super Bowl preview. I mean, we do have a good Christmas slate coming up. We got predictions coming out this Saturday. I'm sure we'll have at least one Christmas game on there. But Bills and Lions. Once again, let's just jump right into it. I picked the Bills game right. You picked the Bills game wrong. I think common theme coming on here. I picked the Rams 2 weeks ago to beat the Bills. You picked the Bills. You laughed at me, and I was right this week. Similar situation, but we'll keep that off to the side. Overall in this one, though, how many more injuries can the Lions sustain? I mean, you have David Montgomery that went down. You have a couple defensive players that went down. Is it getting to a point where it's going to be too much for the Lions to overcome week in and week out?
It's really tough to say that I might agree. I honestly think, that stereotypical saying that defense wins championships, but with what defense? Everyone's coming and going. Everyone's gone. The only one that started week one that's still in the depth chart is Brian Branch. Brian Branch is the only one left. If he gets hurt, it's essentially a team of backups at defense. You have nobody. Everyone else is hurt. It's just a matter of how much is the offense going to suffer from the defense's mistakes. Because, if this defense goes into – granted, they're going to play Chicago on Sunday, but if you're going to allow 48 points in a game because of your defense that's weak, it's really going to impact the offense, especially without David Montgomery now, because this is their first game without that dynamic duo in the backfield. But it's just a matter of you just cannot give Jared Goff a big deficit. You cannot give him a deficit of more than 2 possessions, or it is just going to be a downward spiral from there.
Yeah, and I think adding on to your point, a lot of the NFC has high-powered offenses. You look at the Vikings, they've got Sam Darnold, Kirk Cousins, Jordan Addison, Aaron Jones. They're loaded on offense. You look at the Eagles, they got Saquon, they got A.J. Brown, they got Devontae Smith. They're loaded. The Commanders, they got Austin Eckler. He's kind of a shell of himself at this point, but they've got Jaden Daniels. They got Brian Robinson. They're loaded. Who else is up there? You got the Packers. They got Christian Watson. They got Jordan Love. You got the point. You got the Rams, Puka, Cooper Kupp. I know Cooper Kupp did nothing. But you got the point. All these offenses are loaded. The offense is there's no shortage of offense in the NFC, and I think a lot of it is a shortage of defense. So the Lions, their defense is cooked. I mean, they've got so many injuries. I don't know how much more they can handle. It's going to be a matter of, can they slow down these high-powered offense come playoff time 3-4 weeks from now?
That's really the big question, is because you're looking at the Lions right now. You're 12-2, but Minnesota, at the end of the day, they have been one game behind you the entire season. They have been right on your heels every single week since week 5. And now it's just a matter of, are you really going to hang? It's just that game right there, week 18, is going to decide this division. Some way or another, it is going to decide playoff spots. It's going to decide a division. It's going to decide a lot in the NFC playoff hunt. But again, I don't know how much Aaron Glenn can take all this pressure now that a lot of these guys are coming in that have barely played all season. And now here, especially at the final stretch, when you're going to play teams like Chicago, San Fran, Minnesota, and just to get your seed in the playoffs, when we get to the playoffs, you're going to have a very similar team. All these guys, like, where there's their optimism coming in, like, Aiden Hutchinson might be back for the Super Bowl. Alex Anzalone might be back for the NFC Championship game. Yeah, you have to get there first. That's the problem. You have to get there with the defense you have, and it's just a matter of if the offense is going to adapt. I'm sure that it's going to take a little bit of a learning curve. I'm not saying they're going to lose to Chicago. There's a possibility, but I'm not saying they're really going to lose to Chicago. It's going to be a struggle for them in some aspects of the game because they have to learn it's no longer a 2 running back system anymore. They got to air it out a lot more, and their defense cannot allow touchdowns on every single possession because that's essentially what they did with Buffalo. They almost allowed a touchdown on almost every single possession. That is not okay in January, especially in the divisional NFC Championship game. If you want to even get there, that is not okay. And I don't know where we go with this Lions team. I said they were a strong threat, and now injuries, man, it's derailed, and I don't know if they can recover.
Going back to the Bills scoring flurry, I mean, you have to factor in that Josh Allen is playing at pretty much an unheard of level right now. Like, he's playing at a ridiculous level. And I don't think that the Bills offense or Josh Allen or any team in the NFL for that matter can get up to that level besides the Chiefs. And if the Lions get to the Super Bowl, they will have Aiden Hutchinson back. They will have Alex Anzalone back. They will be loaded going back to the Super Bowl. So it's going to be a matter of, can they take advantage of some of these weaker NFC defenses and limp their way to a Super Bowl and then reload and lock in for a matchup with what I would assume is going to be the Chiefs. I don't think they haven't played as well this year, but come playoff time, they're always a different beast.
They are, and like you said with Josh Allen, he is making sure, come hell or high water, he is making sure that Lamar Jackson does not get another MVP.
Yeah.
He is playing lights out every single game. He is putting up stats that are unheard of. Against San Fran, he ran, he caught, and he threw a touchdown in the same game. He made it look easy. It's just insane to me that Josh Allen, he doesn't even have a loaded receiving core. He doesn't have, you say the names on paper at the beginning of the season, it wasn't really supposed to click, and it did. He made it work, and that's the great thing about Josh Allen. He's that guy when he needs to be. He will get you the clutch. He will get you 300 yards a game. He will get you at least one rushing touchdown. He'll get you 6 touchdowns in a game. He's done it before several times, but it's just a matter of how far can you go. You're going to face the beast late January, most likely in your house. You are going to be home potentially in Kansas City. I don't know where the seeds fall, but who knows? Kansas City is a juggernaut in the playoffs. They're a completely different team. This isn't going to be we're just going to sell. It's going to be a 3-point game, and the refs are going to throw a flag, and we're going to win the game. None of that anymore. The Chiefs are Patrick Mahomes locks in, and they're unstoppable. But with the Lions, I mean, against the Bears offense versus the Lions defense this week is going to be atrocious. Like, the Bears are 0-8 since Tyreek Stevenson waved at the Commanders fans in Washington, and Caleb Williams is he's getting beat up every single week. But the Lions defense, Bears offense, I feel like the Lions defense, if it works, Aaron Glenn is 1,000 times better than any of the coaching staff on the Chicago Bears. But again, they just have to prove that they can hang in the NFC playoffs. Like, when you beat teams like Chicago, you beat teams like San Fran. San Fran's not a threat anymore. San Fran's essentially gone. They're on their last breath this season. But I feel like Detroit, we just need to get to the playoffs, and then we can go from there.
Yeah, and it's all about getting in, and anything can happen. I know you talk about it with baseball. If your hitters get hot, you could go all the way to the World Series. I mean, we saw it with the Mets this year. They weren't the most talented team in the world, but they were hot. They scored a bunch per game. Their pitching was good enough, and they went to the NLCS. The same thing can happen with football. If your defense is clicking on all cylinders, if the play calling is right, if the offense has it going, and the coaching is borderline perfect, the Lions are the best team in the NFC. So, in my opinion, if they just do everything a little bit above average, I think they stumble their way into an NFC Championship game and potentially a Super Bowl. Like, I think there's still so much potential for the Lions. There's still so much that they have to do, and that's available for them. I mean, breaking up Sonic and Knuckles and David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs, it's not ideal, but you still have one top running back in the NFL. Like, Jahmyr Gibbs is still, like, I don't know, top 8, top 9 running back in the league, if not higher. So there's still so much potential on offense. There's still so good, and the defense. It's just gonna be can they piece games together? Can they put the pieces in the puzzle and win football games? And then going from a Bills perspective, Josh Allen has been the guy. He has been so good. And you talked about how they didn't have the best roster on paper coming into the season. The Bills have been built on continuity for the past, I don't know, 4 or 5 years. I mean, you look at them, they've had Stephon Diggs in the past. I mean, he's a good receiver and all, but he's not like bringing them to the Super Bowl on his own. It takes more than one top wide receiver in today's day and age. I mean, you have Amari Cooper now. You lost Gabe Davis. You have James Cook, who has been awesome this year. Josh Allen is a receiver, a fullback, a running back, and a quarterback all in one, essentially. He's been so good that the Bills are locked and loaded. It's going to be a matter of can they keep the momentum going into the playoffs and keep it going into Arrowhead for probably an AFC Championship matchup with the Chiefs.
Yeah, that's essentially your only shot to a Super Bowl. You are going to face the juggernaut. You are either going to Arrowhead or you're either going to Kansas. You're either going to Arrowhead or you're either going to Buffalo. But here's the thing. You have to win these games. You cannot get complacent in the final 3 games of the season because you want to be home for Patrick Mahomes. You do not want to go to his territory because he's going to win in his territory. The only time he's lost in the playoffs was to Joe Burrow, but the Bengals have not had that dynamic season ever since they went to the Super Bowl and they lost to the Rams. But, who knows? I think the Bills are 1,000% capable of making a postseason run and competing with the Chiefs. It's just a matter of how long you can stay and how long you can fight against Patrick Mahomes. And potentially, if you jump over that hurdle and you beat Patrick Mahomes, this Super Bowl, potentially against the Lions, potentially against the Eagles, who knows? It could be anyone's game on the NFC side. But I feel like if Buffalo beats Kansas City, it might be theirs. And then they might get that one Super Bowl in their first in history.
Yeah, I think it's definitely there for the Bills. I think there was a little bit of a toxic culture with Stephon Diggs. And now with Amari Cooper, it's been eliminated. And they're so locked in. Josh Allen is on top of his game. If they could get past the big bad Chiefs, I don't see what's stopping them the rest of the way. I think the AFC is definitely better than the NFC. That's pretty obvious. I think just look at the records and pretty much all the metrics back it up. So I think that whoever comes out of the AFC will win anyway. It's just a matter if it's going to be the Chiefs or the Bills. Maybe the Ravens, maybe the Steelers. I think it's really between the Chiefs and the Bills, though. All right, let's get to our next matchup of the episode. The Battle of Pennsylvania. The Pittsburgh Steelers and the Philadelphia Eagles. What'd you see on Sunday?
I am disappointed. I took Pittsburgh. I really did because you know what? The Eagles I didn't see the chemistry with A.J. Brown and Jalen Hurts. I'll get to that in a second. But I said, you know what? Stop the run and you're going to win this game. They did. Saquon Barkley had probably his lowest yards this season in 65 yards. But they completely were oblivious to this dynamic duo that suddenly – out of nowhere, where everyone thought, the animosity wasn't great, the locker room environment wasn't great. Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown are back, and they are now here. They're now there for a reason. Now that it's time to lock in with Philadelphia because now Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown are going to be a lethal duo if they keep it up. Jalen Hurts is becoming a prolific passer in this league for sure. He's getting 200, 300 yards a game. He's getting 2 touchdowns through the air. He's getting a couple through the ground. This is what you need if you are going to compete in the NFC with the Detroit Lions, with the Minnesota Vikings, with anyone that's in the NFC playoff picture this year. The Eagles have to assert their dominance. The A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert, Dallas Goedert's not even playing, but these young guys that are stepping up other than A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith and Saquon Barkley. These guys are stepping up in a major way. Guys like Cooper DeJean, Reed Blankenship, Nakobe Dean, these guys are emerging, and it's really a serious threat in the NFC. But meanwhile, for the Pittsburgh Steelers, I don't know, with this division, the Ravens are on their way up, and who knows? If you keep playing like this, where was the Russell Wilson that showed up from week 6 to 13. Where was that guy? I don't know where he is. Where's the run game? And like you said, I'm going to give credit where credit is due here, where you said that there was no George Pickens and that was going to be a problem. It sure was a problem. Sure, Calvin Austin was the leading receiver. Great. He's supposed to step up. Like, that's what you're supposed to do when your wide receiver one's out. The Steelers defense, up until TJ Watt got hurt, was fine. It's just they couldn't adapt. TJ Watt went down, and so did the Pittsburgh Steelers. And that is seriously an issue with the Ravens right at your heels and potentially going to steal this division from you.
Yeah, and I mean, I just want to talk about the Eagles for a second because the Eagles moved to 12-2 with this win. The Lions dropped to 12-2 as well, I believe. So that's a tie for first place in the conference. I think the Eagles should win out. They have the Commanders, Giants, and Cowboys coming up. So there's a real world where we see the Eagles as the number one seed in the NFC after just a couple weeks back. We're saying, oh, the Lions are a wagon. No one's stopping the Lions. They're clear number one seed in the NFC. Why? Well, I still think that they're the best team fully healthy. They're not. And that's a part of football. You're not going to be fully healthy. The injuries are always an aspect of the sport, and they always make an impact. So it's going to be, can the Eagles get by this year when, sure, they don't have the most talented roster. Their roster is still loaded with talent, don't get me wrong. But there are more talented rosters in this league. Can they get to and win an NFC championship game? And then once they get to the Super Bowl, it's going to be, can they avenge their loss from 2 years ago, whether it's against the Chiefs or whether it's against the Bills? So I think there's a world where we see an Eagles Super Bowl. I think this game, I mean, you see, even with Saquon not running for many yards, only 65, like you mentioned, he didn't score a touchdown. The Eagles still found a way to put up 27 points and win a football game. That is something every team needs to be able to do. Adapt when your best player isn't producing at as high of a level. And the Eagles did that perfectly in this one.
No doubt about it. They did. And honestly, if it comes down to it, the Eagles are the more healthy team. The Eagles-Lions NFC Championship game, honestly, the Eagles, if the Lions go into it with that defense and it keeps allowing the high-scoring games, like let's say, I don't know, they allow like 20-something points to Chicago, 25 to San Fran, and then like 30-something to Minnesota, that's an issue, especially when you're going to play the Eagles. Let's say Saquon Barkley has a Saquon Barkley game, goes for over 200 yards from scrimmage. You're done. It's over. The Eagles are going to steamroll you in the NFC Championship game, but they have to keep consistently winning. This isn't, A.J. Brown and Jalen Hurts are friends again. Oh, it's one game. At the end of the day, it's one game. They're friends again. They have to consistently show that there is no animosity in that locker room. There is nothing wrong with the Philadelphia Eagles because that's the only way they're going to win. If they put all that animosity aside, they're going to be a serious contender in the NFC.
Yeah, and I think they have to be because the Eagles they've put all their chips in the middle. They're looking for a Super Bowl before the end of Saquon's contract, before A.J. Brown's gone. They need to do it this year, and I think A.J. Brown's got to realize that, and so does Jalen Hurts, where next year the Rams are going to be better, the Lions are going to be better. I don't know what a more developed Jaden Daniels is going to look like for the Commanders. They might not win the division next year. We'll have to see what the Vikings do at quarterback, but another year of Sam Darnold with Kevin O'Connell. The NFC is improving. This was kind of like a reset year for most of these teams, and we'll see what Michael Penix Jr. does with the Falcons next year. He's got all the talent in the world with Bijan and Drake London and Kyle Pitts, where the NFC is like really going to improve next year. The Eagles have to go for it all this year, put whatever beef they have to the side for this playoff run, get through it, and then if they win the Super Bowl, hate each other. I don't care. We got our ring. That's that. I don't care anymore.
Exactly. It's all about the ring. You get it, you're done. There is you can hate each other all you want. You can cut everybody on the roster. You got the ring. It's in the case. You're done. That's it. And to your point, yeah, the NFC is improving. Like do not be surprised if we see the Minnesota Vikings in the NFC Championship game. I wouldn't be surprised if the way Sam Darnold and that offense that we thought never was going to work, no one thought that offense was going to click. Don't be surprised if they're in the hunt. Do not be surprised if there's always one Cinderella story team that. Why not the Rams? Why not the Packers? They could honestly, anything can happen in the playoffs. Anyone can sneak in. So the Eagles have to realize that there is not an easy out. You have to lock in from here, even the last 3 games, no matter what. Who cares if you're 12-2? Every game counts. Who cares if you are playing the NFC East the last 3 games? Who cares if you are hosting Dallas? If you're hosting Dallas, you cannot let that. If you let Dallas come to Philadelphia and win, that's a problem. That now we have a problem. If you lose to Washington, if you lose to Dallas, now we have an issue where things might need to improve right before playoff time. They cannot be. In order to be a 1 seed, if you really want the 1 seed, you want to be at Lincoln Financial Field for every single playoff game up until the Super Bowl. You got to win out. This is your chance. I mean, you're not playing Kansas City, Detroit, and I don't know, Minnesota. You're not playing those 3 teams back to back to back. You're playing the NFC East. The NFC East is known for not being one of the strongest divisions in football. So who knows? It is your game, and it's all about how you play it, and you got to play your cards right.
Yeah, you do. And I think the Eagles are in a prime spot. But another team who's in a really good spot right now that I don't think enough people are talking about is the Minnesota Vikings. Like they control the destiny of the NFC North. If they win out and they play the Lions week 18, they will win the division. And I think if they win the division, they'll get the number 1 seed. Because at that point, what would they have? 2 losses, 3 losses, maybe? I think the Eagles, I don't know, they could lose to the Commanders. I think that would be an issue. Philly, we'd have a problem with that. But if the Eagles get the 2 seed, I think as an Eagle, if I was an Eagles fan, I'd be okay with the 2 seed. Obviously, you want the 1 seed. But going to the playoffs with the 2 seed, you're going to finish probably 12-3. Saquon looked awesome this year. Jalen Hurts is really improving. The receiving core was good. You have an awesome secondary in Cooper Jean and Reed Blankenship. Like, we got our pieces locked for this year in the playoffs. We're going to go at it. We're going to get it this year. And then we'll see in the future what that secondary can do, how many more rings we can pile up before we lose this kind of core.
Yeah. I mean, that's the Eagles for you. I mean, that's every year. I feel like they always try to stack their team, and we'll see what happens. But who knows? I mean, the Eagles are clearly not falling. Last year, those mistakes, it's pretty much the same team, honestly. The mistakes last year, you were, 10-11-1, and then you finished, 1-6 to finish the year? Obviously, that's not going to happen because, you got your act together, and you look like a juggernaut in the NFC. But with the Vikings, man, I don't know. This Vikings team can easily win the NFC, let alone the division. They can easily represent the NFC in the Super Bowl. If you keep playing the way you're playing, they have not really had a bad game. Sure, let's see the 2 losses they've had. I mean, okay, the Lions is 1. There's the one. First one is the Lions. All right, the Rams game might have been a fluke, but every team has a fluke. Every team has a fluke game. But again, your only real loss is the Detroit Lions, and that game is honestly going to decide the division, let alone the seeding in the NFC. Because here's the thing for the Vikings: you're playing what? You got Seattle, Green Bay, and Detroit. Not an easy road. Every one of those 3 is fighting for a spot in the playoffs. Seattle's fighting for the lead in the division. Green Bay's fighting for a spot in the playoffs. And Detroit wants that 1 seed. This is really time to lock in. There is no more mistakes for Minnesota. You cannot be putting up like these, only winning by 1 to the Arizona Cardinals or only winning by 5 to the Jacksonville Jaguars. You cannot be doing that because if you do that, you're going to get exposed and The Lions are coming for you. The Eagles are coming for you. Everyone's coming for you because you're 12-2 right now, and if you're gonna finish strong, let's say you win all 3 games. Let's say you're the 1 seed in the NFC. What happens now? Like, how does a guy like Sam Darnold adapt to that benchmark? You're the 1 seed. You're at US Bank Stadium. Skull chants everywhere for 3 straight games. If you make it to the NFC Championship game, you gotta be like, all right, this is our time. We gotta make a run. We're gonna do it.
Yeah, if the Vikings win the division, this could be their year. And like I said earlier, if they win the division, I think they win the conference as well. But let's get to one more match of this episode. The New York Jets beating the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now I'll start with what I saw. Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams looked really good. Like, Aaron Rodgers looked like he had a sip of the fountain of youth, and he was back locked in with Devontae Adams. Both guys were on point. Adams 198 receiving yards. Aaron Rodgers 289 passing yards to go along with 45 rushing yards, which is not something we see very often from Aaron Rodgers. So that was the biggest thing. I mean, these games don't really matter for the Jets, but you always want to win. And looking to the future, like, this last couple of games are going to be a big stretch because it's going to be, do you want to keep Aaron Rodgers as your quarterback? Do you want to move on from Devontae Adams? What do you see in Sauce Gardner, Breece Hall? What do you see in that defensive line that was supposed to be so good, getting compared to the '80s Bears last year? They haven't seen that. I haven't seen that from them this year, except for that Texans game. They look good, but this was like a pretty complete win, I thought.
Yeah, I agree. And to your point, I don't think you mentioned this. Devontae Adams had 198 yards in the second half. He had 0 in the first half, 0 touchdowns. Aaron Rodgers had less than 100 yards in the first half. And then the dynamic duo turned it on for 30 minutes of football. Like, you cannot even write that Devontae Adams goes for nearly 200 yards and 2 touchdowns in 2 quarters. Like, that's unheard of. But like you said, the Jets team this year is the future of the New York Jets is a big question mark. What are we going to do with Rodgers? Is he going to stay, or are you going to give Jordan Travis the shot? Are you potentially, you don't even want to give Jordan Travis a shot. You want to have that high pick. You might even take a quarterback. Who knows? I don't know what Woody Johnson has planned, but you got young guys like Breece Hall. You got Garrett Wilson. They're sticking around. Sauce is going to stick around. Quentin Williams. Who else we got? Quentin Williams, Jermaine Johnson. These guys are sticking around. It's just a matter of what you do, how you build around it. Do you keep the veteran quarterback? Do you want to go with someone young? But here's the thing. If you go with someone young, I feel like you need a strong head coach to go with it. You cannot – Jeff Ulbrich, if he's your coach next year, if you really think he's going to be your coach –
no, and he won't be.
You're going to have another 5-win season. But honestly, you need to search really good for a head coach. Like Aaron Rodgers, sure. Aaron Rodgers, his voice will not go unheard in a locker room. It didn't go unheard in Green Bay. It's not going unheard in New York. But here's the thing. Aaron Rodgers needs a great coach. He had Mike McCarthy. Mike McCarthy as a Packers head coach before the whole drama with Rodgers when they drafted Jordan Love. Before all that, their dynamic was amazing. It was compared to like Brady and Belichick or Tomlin and Roethlisberger. It was insane, the dynamic those two had. But I feel like Aaron Rodgers needs some sort of guidance from the coach. Like he's out there saying like, oh, you know what? I want to make the moves. You're gone. I can't do this. I'm gonna go to Egypt and go to therapy and get a Netflix documentary about myself. No, I'm not saying Aaron Rodgers should be doing that, but I'm saying like Aaron Rodgers, if you want to stick around, if you really want to be committed, like you say, to the New York Jets, you got to show it to me.
Yeah, I haven't seen enough from him. It's been a lot of talk, all bark, no bite. And the thing is, the Jets are gonna have a new quarterback. They're gonna have I think at least. I think they're going to have a new head coach, new general manager. You want to sign a proven head coach this year. You saw what the Commanders are doing with Dan Quinn and Jaden Daniels. A proven head coach and a rookie quarterback that's taken at the number 2 overall pick. So maybe the Jets are a candidate to move up and draft a quarterback. maybe if the Giants get the first or second overall pick, we see a crosstown trade and the Giants move back and the Jets move up. I think there's a recipe for success here. Having Aaron Rodgers as a backup quarterback potentially next year, he already mentioned today that he's okay being a mentor. That could work. If Aaron Rodgers is your mentor, let's say Mike Vrabel's your head coach. He did good things with Marcus Mariota. Um, so that could really work if you get your guy. But if the Jets aren't going to draft their guy at quarterback, it's not going to work. It's proven they're not going to be good.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing though. Aaron Rodgers has said numerous times like he doesn't mind being a mentor. But let's see if he really holds his word next season and says, "Hey, you know what? I'll be a mentor. We'll give Jordan Travis the shot, or give some rookie quarterback coming in the shot." But like you said, Mike Vrabel is definitely on the table. Ben Johnson's getting a coaching job. Aaron Glenn is getting a coaching job, guaranteed. You want one of those guys to lead your team because you need a good head coach. It's proven that the Jets, I don't know, was maybe Rex Ryan, I think, was their coach when they made the AFC Championship game like 13 years ago. But who knows? You need to recreate that success. Everyone's saying like, "Oh, the Jets, the longest playoff drought in sports history." Well, wait, if you want to, from a business standpoint, you want to shut them up. You want to shut every hater up in America that says the Jets are terrible. The Jets are a dumpster fire. The Jets are no better than 8 wins every season. We need to prove them wrong as an organization. Everyone needs to do their part. And if Aaron Rodgers wants to be a mentor, so be it. I can see him as a great leader to a guy like Jordan Travis, or potentially someone like Shedeur Sanders. I don't know where Shedeur Sanders is going to go. I don't know where Cam Ward's going to go. Who knows what the Giants do with the first overall pick? Who knows what the Panthers do? Who knows what the Raiders do? You're going to potentially have a top 5 draft pick. Looking at your schedule, I mean, you got the Rams. They're fighting for a division. They're going to give you a rough game. You got Buffalo. Same thing. They got the division on lock. They got the playoffs on lock. They are fighting for that 1 seed, and they're going to give you hell. Dolphins, I don't know. Do you win that game? If you lose 2 of the 3, you're sitting at, what are you, 4-10? You lose 2 of the 3. You go 5-12, and we'll see if you have a top 5 draft pick, top 6 draft pick. It's all about what you do. You could honestly draft the wrong guy that you do not need, and that's where the wall comes tumbling down, and you're in trouble. But I don't see, it's just a question mark. Like I said at the beginning, it really is. Anything can happen with the Jets. They can go any direction with the way this organization goes. But I feel like it could be a positive trajectory if everything goes right.
Yeah, it could work out for the Jets, but I also see them being the Jets, and it just nothing works out, and they out Jets the Jets. Only the Jets can out the Jets, the LOL Jets. I mean, if you're a Jets fan, you want to lose all these last 3 games. It makes no sense to win them. And if I don't know who the new Jets GM is going to be, but if I'm coming in, I'm going to look to make a splash and move up in the draft, because I think they're probably going to have maybe like a late top 10 pick, maybe like 12, 13 overall even. I'm not on Tankathon right now. This isn't accurate. But if I'm a GM, if I'm the new GM, I'm going to look to make a splash and move up quite a bit and try to take a quarterback if that's what my head coach wants.
Okay. Oh, wait, you know what? Let's test that out. Let's say you're the Jets GM. You are hired as the New York Jets GM. You know what? You're 5-12. That is your record. You are 5-12. You are given, let's say, the 8th overall pick. Are you keeping it, or are you trading down? Or are you trading up?
I'm going to try to move up. I'm going to try to move to anywhere, maybe 2, 3, 4. That slot, because that'll probably give you, I think Travis Hunter goes first overall. So I think that'll give you the option of either Shedeur Sanders, who I think comes with a lot of baggage being Deion's son, Cam Ward, and then 3rd overall, I don't even know who's going to go 3rd overall. Or 3rd out quarterbacks after that.
Who knows? That's your guys. Carson Beck?
Yeah, maybe Carson Beck, or maybe Quinn Ewers even. I don't know.
Okay.
One of those four guys: Carson Beck, Quinn Ewers, Shadur Sanders, or Cam Ward. I'm gonna look to take one of those guys, and then we'll see. I don't want to give up too much. Well, I don't really care, like because like the thing is like the draft picks don't really matter to them right now. Like they're not going to give up a ton of first round picks and stuff like that. They're just looking to draft a quarterback who could be serviceable because they have a roster that is like they're ready to win some football games. I mean, you look around in the offense, Garrett Wilson, Brees Hall, Devontae Adams. You look, the defensive line is stacked. You look at Sauce Gardner in the secondary. Like they're ready to win right now. So it's just going to be a matter of can they get their quarterback. The quarterback is really the last piece, and nobody expected that with Aaron Rodgers being a New York Jet.
No, no one really did, but it happened, and you got to you made your bed. Now you got to lay in it. But here's the thing: if you really want to trade up from a business standpoint, I think it's a great idea. But here's the thing: someone up there that's dying for a young star that they've been given a gift as a top 5 pick is up there. I am telling you for a fact, the Panthers, do they even have their first round pick, or the Bears have the first round pick this year? I think the Panthers actually have it, but they're not giving it up again. They're giving a top 3 pick. They're going to stay as a top 3 pick. The Raiders are not giving up that pick. The Giants are not giving up that
The
pick.
Giants could. I think the Giants will trade back.
You
I could see
honestly
them.
think if you have the first overall pick as a Giants fan, you honestly
Yeah,
could see them going down?
I actually want them to trade back
Why?
if the return is big enough. Because here's the thing. I would rather them move back, stockpile draft picks, maybe one more day one pick, and then another 2 day 2 picks. Take like an offensive lineman or something. I don't have a specific name for you, and then start filling these other holes because there's so many holes in your roster that drafting one player first overall is not going to fix anything.
You're right. I mean, but it's a gamble though. You trade down, let's say you trade down to 7 or 8. Now you got, let's say 8, you got 7 teams in front of you.
It's a gamble, but what do you have to lose?
What do you have to lose? This is a gamble. The NFL draft is a gamble. Everyone makes a giant board of all these guys and like, oh, I want that guy. Nope, he's gone. I don't know why I traded the pick, but he's gone. You got to pick right. You cannot, this is not the time to take an offensive lineman. You got to take a quarterback. I am sorry.
No, they really don't. I think the guy is going to come in next year's draft. It's not this year.
Who's manning the ship? DeVito's really manning the ship for a year?
You're gonna sign a stopgap guy like a Jameis Winston or something of that someone of that nature. You're not gonna be competitive this year. Maybe you'll win 4 or 5 games, but then next year you'll have the opportunity to take a quarterback.
Yeah, but that's the thing. You got to tank next year. You got to look terrible next year just for that quarterback.
If the Giants tank one more year for potentially 7, 8, 9, 10 years of success, I'll take it.
You tank next year and potentially Archie Manning's yours. Archie
Potentially,
Manning could be
I'll
yours.
take that. All right, that's gonna do it for this episode. I'm Ben Bowling, that's Jason Lee, and you're listening to Chasing Victory with Ben Bowling and Jason Lee. We'll talk to you on Saturday.